My name is Michael Turner, and I used to think the worst thing that ever happened to me was getting fired from my job in Boston. That was until I moved into the Claymore Complex in a forgotten corner of Milwaukee. I found it listed on a poorly designed website. The listing was suspiciously vague, but the rent was half the price of anything else in the city. I should have known better. I should have run the moment I saw the photo of the building. It was an old structure, stone gray, with too many windows, and a strange aura that clung to the edges of the screen like mold. I needed a place fast, so I convinced myself it was just bad photography. The landlord never picked up my calls. I only got a text with an address and a time to meet. When I arrived, the front doors opened without me touching them. A key was waiting on the doormat in a plain envelope. No signature, no note, just a key and a number. 6C. The elevator was slow and shuddered with each floor. The walls inside were covered with warped wood paneling and old stains that looked like dried blood. I laughed nervously to myself. My imagination always got the better of me. The hallway on the 6th floor was narrow and dim. My apartment door stood at the end, the number barely visible under layers of grim inside. The apartment was surprisingly clean, sparsely furnished, but decent. I dropped my bag on the couch and went to check the windows. They were all locked. I found a sealed envelope on the kitchen table. It had the Claymore Complex logo on the front. Inside was a Listaria less for residency. In Unit 6, Rule 1. Never open your windows after sunset. No exceptions. Rule 2. If the door knocks 3 times at exactly 2:11 a.m., do not answer. Turn off all the lights and hide in the wardrobe. Rule 3. You may hear music playing from the unit above. That unit has been vacant for 10 years. Do not investigate. Rule 4. Every Wednesday at 4:44 p.m., leave a glass of water outside your door. Do not look through the peephole for the next 10 minutes. Rule 5. If you find a second reflection in your mirror that does not mimic your movements, leave the apartment immediately and sleep somewhere else for the night. Rule 6. Do not speak to anyone in the stairwell after midnight, even if they call your name. Rule 7. Never answer your phone if the caller ID is blank. Rule 8. If you wake up at 3:33 a.m. and smell roses, lock your bedroom door and chant the words written on the back of this paper. There was no chant on the back, just a dark red smear. I should have left that night. I should have gone back to my car and slept in the parking lot of a diner. But instead, I convinced myself it was some elaborate prank by the landlord. Maybe a marketing gimmick. I tossed the paper in the drawer and turned on the TV. At exactly 2:11 a.m. The knocking started. 3 slow, heavy knocks. I froze. My eyes drifted to the wardrobe. My legs moved before I had a chance to think. I crawled inside the wardrobe and shut the door. The apartment fell into silence, except for the faint sound of breathing. It was not mine. The breathing lasted for what felt like an hour. Shallow, ragged, just outside the wardrobe. I clutched my knees and stared into the darkness, trying not to blink. When the sound finally stopped, I waited another 20 minutes before opening the door. There was nothing in the apartment. No sign that anyone had been there. The TV was off, even though I never touched the remote. The lights flickered once before going dark. I grabbed my phone to use the flashlight. No signal, no Wi-Fi, just a black screen with the time, 3:33 a.m. sharp. Floral scent filled the room. Roses. I bolted to the bedroom and locked the door. My hands trembled as I tried to remember the chant that never existed. I pushed the dresser in front of the door and curled into a corner. Something scratched the walls outside, then the ceiling, then the floor. I fell asleep out of sheer exhaustion and woke up to daylight pouring through the curtains. The paper with the rules was back on the table. This time, the red smear was gone. The back now had a message written in precise block letters. Chant, never again in life or death shall the shadow claim my breath. I read it over and over again. The words pulsed with something beneath the inklater. That day I walked down to the front desk to ask about the rules. There was no front desk, just an empty space with old furniture covered in white sheets. I tried to leave the building. The front doors were locked. Woman with sunken eyes appeared behind me and asked if I needed help. I explained I was trying to get out. She nodded and pointed to the stairwell. They only open after dark, she said. I did not question her. I just went back. Upstairs. My apartment door was ajar. Inside, everything was exactly as I left it, except for the new envelope on the floor. Welcome to your second night, it said. I spent the next few hours unpacking what little I brought. Clothes, a few books, my laptop. The Wi-Fi worked again, but every time I tried to send a message, the screen would freeze. Calls never went through. I played music to calm my nerves, but it kept cutting to static at 4:44 p.m. on Wednesday. I placed a glass of water outside the door. I sat far from the peephole. I stared at the floor and covered my ears. Still, I heard it, a faint shuffling, the sound of something being dragged, a low voice whispering in a language I had never heard. Then silence when I opened the door. The glass was gone. In its place was a small silver key. It did not fit any lock in the apartment that night. I stared at the ceiling for hours, listening for music from above. Nothing came at 3:33 a.m. I woke up again to the smell of roses. I locked the door and whispered the chant over and over until the scent vanished the next day. I took the silver key and tried it in the basement door I had passed earlier that week. It fits inside. Was not a basement. It was a hallway lined with doors. Some were made of rusted metal. Others looked organic, like they were grown instead of built. Each door had a name etched into it. None of them were mine. I turned to leave and found the hallway behind me had disappeared. Panic surged through me like fire. I turned back to the door I had just come through, but it was gone. The hallway had twisted in silence, rearranged itself behind my back. I walked forward. The air felt heavier the deeper I went. One door had veins pulsing beneath its surface. Another had a faint heartbeat behind it. I tried not to look at the names too long. One of them shimmered and spelled my full name for just a second before changing. A Ghanaian door opened on its own. I could not help it. I stepped inside. It was my old bedroom from my childhood home in Worcester, down to the torn posters in the cracked window above the bed. It smelled like old books and something burnt. I turned to leave, but the door had vanished again. There was someone sitting on the bed. It was me. Not exactly. He looked like me, but older, his face gaunt, eyes too wide, skin pale and stretched tight across his skull. He smiled and raised his hand in greeting. "Took you long enough," he said. I ran. The room stretched as I moved. The floor bent. The walls groaned. Every time I turned a corner, the same door appeared in front of me. The one with the veins. Eventually I slammed into a mirror. My reflection blinked. I blinked again. It did not. The rules. Rule 5. I closed my eyes and turned away, but I heard it moving. My reflection was climbing out. The mirror shattered before I could move. Shards exploded across the room. I shielded my face and stumbled back, but something caught my ankle. Fingers. Cold. Identical to mine. I kicked and screamed. My other self pulled itself through the glass like it was water, limbs bending wrong, bones clicking as it straightened, grinned, not with malice, with hunger. It spoke without opening its mouth. "You left me there." I ran, door to door. Nothing opened then. I remembered the key. The silver wound. I reached into my pocket, and it was there, burning hot. I jammed it into the nearest lock. The door screamed as it opened. I stumbled through into a kitchen. Familiar, but wrong. It was my apartment, Claymore Complex. But everything was inverted. Left was right. Light was shadow. The fridge was a photo of me sleeping, taken from above. Footsteps followed behind. May turned. "No one." The mirror version of me whispered from inside the walls. I could hear it pacing. I locked the door and backed away. Knock 3 times. I checked the time. 2:11 Amy had escaped into another nightmare. I did not answer the door. I knew the rule. I killed the lights and dove into the wardrobe. Even though everything in this version of the apartment was twisted inside the wardrobe, it was colder than before. My breath formed clouds and I pressed my back against the rear panel. I waited 3 knocks again. Louder than silence, dragging sound crept across the floor outside. I peeked through the crack in the door. There were footprints forming in the dust, bare, wet. The steps circled the room once, then twice. Then they stopped in front of the wardrobe. I held my breath. Something exhaled on the other side. Then it began to whisper words I did not understand. A low, dry voice scraping like wind over broken glass. The wardrobe began to shake. I closed my eyes and whispered the chant over and over. The footsteps faded when I opened the door. The apartment was empty again. I stepped out slowly. Everything was still in reverse. The photo on the fridge was gone. In its place was a note scratched into the metal: keep going. I found the silver key back in my pocket. There was another door in the corner of the room I had not noticed before. The frame was pulsing. Stepped toward it. The hallway was narrower than before. The walls were stitched with black thread, as if holding something inside. I could hear it breathing. Not behind the walls. Inside them. I walked slowly. My shoes stuck slightly with each step. The floor coated in something I did not want to identify. The lights buzzed above me in an irregular pattern, flashing like a failing heartbeat. I kept my eyes forward until I saw her. She was standing at the far end, not moving, wearing the same red sweater she died in. Mom, she raised her hand and pointed, not at me, at the wall beside her. Something was bulging beneath the wallpaper, pushing out like a face pressed to fabric. I moved closer, and the bulge slid away like it had been watching. Michael, her voice did not come from her. It came from the lights above me. Each bulb flickered in sync with her words. My legs locked in place. Why did you leave me in that house? I wanted to answer. I opened my mouth, but only blood came out, thick and bitter. She stepped forward, and her face peeled slightly, revealing something to white beneath. She is not real, I told myself. That is not her. I turned and ran. The hallway changed again. It rotated. I found myself running upward. Doors flung open. Rooms full of whispering televisions. Identical versions of my bedroom. My body on the floor in each one, face down, unmoving. I passed one door that did not open. It had no knob, only a small plaque that read, Rule 9. I stopped. There was no Rule 9, not on the list. The door clicked, slowly creaked open. I should have kept moving. Inside was a small theater. One seat, one screen. The screen showed me, sitting in the wardrobe, from earlier that night. Then it showed me walking into this hallway. Then it showed me watching the screen. I blinked. The image remained. I sat in the chair. I watched myself dissolve. I do not remember standing up. One moment I was in the theater, watching myself disappear. The next, I was back in my apartment, only it was not mine anymore. The walls were covered in newspaper, articles about missing people. Their faces had been scratched out. Some of the clippings mentioned the Claymore Complex. One headline read, "Tenants vanish without a trace." I turned on the kitchen faucet. Blood poured out. I stumbled back. The photo on the fridge had changed again. Now it showed me sleeping on the floor, surrounded by shadows. One of the shadows had eyes. I tore it down and opened the freezer. Inside was my phone, frozen. The screen blinked once, a single message. Door 9. I did not want to go back to the hallway, but the silver key was already in my hand. I had no memory of picking it up. The door was waiting, same pulsing frame, same scent of rust and wet stone. I unlocked it and stepped through. I was in the stairwell. It looked normal, but the steps went both up and down forever. No ceiling, no floor. I heard someone calling my name from above, then again from below. The voices were identical. My voice, I chose down. Each step whispered to me. Names, places, memories I had buried. The farther I descended, the more I forgot. I reached a landing where the number 9 had been carved into the wall over and over. There was a door, different from the others, black metal, breathing slightly. I put the key in. It turned itself. The door opened inward, revealing a pit room. I stepped in. The door vanished behind me. I was no longer alone in my head. The darkness was alive. It pulsed with heat and whispers, not voices, memories. Mine, twisted, reassembled, spoken back to me in the wrong order. I tried to speak, but the air was too thick. Breathing felt like drowning in ink. Shapes moved just outside my vision. When I turned my head, they vanished. When I closed my eyes, they leaned in close. I stumbled forward. The floor was soft, flesh-like. It rippled beneath my steps. A heartbeat throbbed beneath it. My own, maybe, or something else's. Ahead, a light appeared, faint, flickering. I ran toward it. The corridor narrowed. The walls pressed in. Fingers reached from the dark, brushing my skin, cold and wet and curious. The light was a candle, one single candle on a table made of bones. Beside it, a photograph. I recognized the face. It was me, but not from now. From years ago. Before Claymore, I was smiling. I looked happy. Then the picture moved. My face blinked. The smile faded. The photo burned from the edges inward until only the eyes remained. A voice echoed from everywhere and nowhere. You brought this on yourself, Favier. Stepped into the candlelight. Tall, featureless, skin smooth like wax. It had no face, but I could feel it watching me. It held something out. A new page. The same format, same block letters. More rules. Rule 9. When the door chooses you, you do not return. Rule 10. Do not trust your own memories. Rule 11. If you see yourself again, run. Rule 12. Some reflections are permanent. I took the page. The figure melted into the dark. Behind me, I heard my own voice whisper. McCall. I turned. There I was. Another version, smiling wide, eyes hollow. I ran deeper into the dark, and it followed. I ran until the floor changed, harder, colder, a grinding sound beneath each step. Metal now. A corridor of rusted steel lit by dim swinging bulbs. Pipes lined the ceiling, dripping something thick and black. A mirror stood at the end of the hallway. Just one, tall, framed in scorched wood. I could not see my reflection. Instead, I saw the Claymore lobby, empty, intact, almost peaceful. I reached for the glass. My hand went through it. Cold air swirled around my wrist. I stepped forward and fell through. I hit the lobby floor hard. The pain told me I was back, but something was wrong. Everything was reversed. The doors were on the wrong sides. The mailboxes mirrored. Even the numbers on the walls ran backward. The silence was deafening. I walked to the front entrance. Outside was white. Not fog, not snow, just blank space. Stretching forever. I was not alone. 10 figures stood around the lobby, silent, watching. Each wore my face. Some older, some younger, one exactly like me. He stepped forward. You have broken the rules. He handed me the final page. The print was shaky, smudged, like someone had tried to erase it. Rule 13. You were never meant to leave the lobby cracked. Not physically. It sounded like reality itself had fractured. Lines spread through the air like shattered glass. The walls bled light. The other versions of me screamed in unison. Then silence. I was lying on the floor of my apartment. The morning light shone through the blinds. Everything was normal, but the key was still in my hand. The list of rules lay beside me. 14 rules now. The last one had no number, only a warning. Do not trust the ending. Someone knocked on the door 3 times, then again and again.